they are really making a huge difference in a life.
It's amazing. Like I said, I can't say enough for their kindness. It's in their heart. It's not a job. It's in their heart.
Like, you can't just exist. You've got to make a difference in somebody's life, and it's just like, that is what we're meant to do. I mean, you got to put a smile on somebody's face and just be decent and be kind. Raising money for a really good cause. There's nothing like it.
Hey Curvis, this is Jemmy, and welcome to the 99th episode of the Curve the Cube podcast. Can you guys believe it? 99 episodes. I can't believe it. We've made it this far. So thank you to all of you, all of my sponsors, all of my listeners, all of my guests, all of everybody, all of my supporters, everybody. Just thank you so much, and for listening. 99 episodes deep, and who knows how long we're gonna go, but this is an exciting ride, and so excited to have each and every single one of you along for it, and I can't thank you enough. And on this episode, number 99, I have Jennifer McGrath. She is the director of Hearing the Ovarian Cancer Whisper, a local nonprofit that raises money to help those fighting ovarian cancer who are experiencing financial difficulty. And she has a unique story of her own for why she is so passionate about helping others with ovarian cancer, and she shares that on the podcast. So she also heads the Bluewater Babes fishing tournament in Jupiter every year, so please be sure to visit howflorida.org, bluewaterbabes.org, and fishforcure.com to keep on top of everything that she's doing and all the ways that you can help and be a part of it. The fishing tournament, she showed me a video. It looks unbelievably fun, so go look those up too, and hopefully you guys can join in on the next one. And with that, I'll say sit back and relax and enjoy this, the 99th episode of the Curve the Cube podcast with director of Hearing the Ovarian Cancer Whisper and head of Bluewater Babes Florida, Jennifer McGrath. Enjoy. Curve the Cube will now initiate.
Welcome to the podcast, Jennifer.
Okay.
So I'm already recording, just as
Okay.
FYI. So I just to let my listeners know, I'm sitting here with Jennifer McGrath, who is the director of Hearing the Ovarian Cancer Whisper. So
Correct.
please tell us all about what your organization does. It's a local nonprofit, and I'm really
Yep.
excited to share your story.
Yep. So, how Hearing the Ovarian Cancer Whisper is, you were correct, is a local nonprofit here in Palm Beach County. And we're kind of the only game in town for ovarian cancer. And our mission is kind of special,
Okay.
where not only do we fund research for ovarian cancer, but we also present free educational programs about ovarian cancer. But we also, which is kind of like something that's near and dear to my heart, is anyone that is suffering from ovarian cancer locally, who is going through treatment and they can't pay their bills. This is where HOW steps in, and we take care of their everyday living expenses. So while they get this horrible news that they are been diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and all of a sudden they can't work, and they need to focus on getting better, and we take the burden off of them by paying their bills. So from their electric bill to their mortgage, their rent, their car payment, their cell phone, even buying groceries. So they can focus on the healing and just taking that stress off of them. You know, it's a huge amount of relief in a very dark time.
Right.
And even though it's not a lot of money, but I can tell you, you know, because I witness this firsthand. I write the checks. I talk to these people one-on-one, and it's like you're their angel.
Yeah.
And just to give them that relief, like I said, in a very dark time. It's so rewarding. It's kind of like my aha moment in my life, just to be able to give back.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a lot of people who are diagnosed with ovarian cancer that are in financial need, because when you think of women who are diagnosed with ovarian cancer, you think of people in their 60s, their 70s. And most people are financially sound at that point.
Right.
But what's happening in today's world is you hear about people who are getting sick in their 30s, their 20s. I just helped 2 people come to mind who, one girl was 22 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And then this other girl that we just helped, she was 33. So we just paid her mortgage for 3 months, so she was able to fly to MD Anderson and get the treatment.
Wow.
So it's very rewarding. So
Yeah.
that's part of our mission. And
Well, that's huge, because I mean, my family is extraordinarily fortunate in that no one in our family has had any ongoing long-term illnesses to deal with, or devastating diagnoses like ovarian cancer. I mean, we've had our fair share of somewhat temporary situations, something that might be 2-3 months of being in a critical situation, and then maybe an ongoing take a medicine every day for the rest of your life, something like that. But nothing like cancer, right?
Right.
But the stories that I have heard is that after the devastation of the diagnosis, that it's the impact on the everyday little things that you do, because now you're having to go to doctor after doctor after doctor and do treatment after treatment, and there's the bills, and there's all this, and so when I heard about your organization, what you do, what struck me, and you've spoken on it, is the impact of just giving that peace of mind so that someone can focus on the challenge that's most important and that's at hand. And that's from the people who have gone through something like that and have worked with charities such as yours, that's been what they've said over and over again, is just been the biggest relief.
Right.
So
Right.
kudos to you for being there and for
Right.
offering that. So yeah.
Well, and a lot of charities, or you just kind of like wonder, like, when you make a donation, where does the money go?
Right.
And since it's just me and I have an assistant, and so when we do our fundraising through our luncheon, I know where every dollar goes. So not many local nonprofits can say that. So it's very, again, rewarding to me and to our donors, knowing that we know where every dollar goes, and we know the difference we're making. And now that we're kind of like, we've only been our own nonprofit now for 3 years. We used to be part of a bigger nonprofit as a donor advised fund. So we are truly making a difference, and more women are being diagnosed with ovarian cancer. I mean, it's definitely on the rise.
Right.
And not only do we help these women, and we don't forget about them, we see them through this entire journey. I mean, I have this follow-up system where after we're done helping them, I want to know how they're doing, and make sure that they're still alive, and that they don't, they still need us. And just making sure that they're okay, and just checking in with them, and still establishing a relationship with them.
Yeah.
So
What have you found as the years have gone, and you've gone deeper into this? What have you found has been has developed to be something that is extremely important, that you recognize now that perhaps you didn't maybe predict when you were first getting going? Is there something that, like you mentioned, the follow-ups are so important? Is there something that you've realized is really critical that people don't necessarily think about with this?
Well, like with ovarian cancer, I mean, the symptoms are so hard to detect. So, like with breast cancer, you find a lump, you know right away you got to get it checked. With ovarian cancer, it's really important to pay attention to your body. If a symptom persists, go get it checked out. You really have to know the warning signs, pay attention to your body, get the CA-125 test, which is a simple blood test.
Is that like a genetics test?
No, it's just when you go and get your physical, just ask for the CA-125. It's a blood marker test. For instance, it's your baseline test. So when you ask for this test, it will come back with a blood level. So let's just say my marker is 11. And then the next year you go in and you have the same test, and let's just say it's 50. Well, that's not too much of a difference. But let's just say your marker all of a sudden is 5,000. You're like, whoa, there was a difference there.
Major
so
red
something's
flag.
going on.
Yeah.
So you just want to have your base, and you carry that base the rest of your life. So if it's 11, and then it's 20, then it's 50. So you just, that's what you just need to do. And it's no cost, difference, but a lot of people don't know that they need to ask for that test.
And what's the test called again?
CA-125.
CA-125.
In fact, one of our board members, Dr. Robert Knapp, is the co-inventor of that test. So he is still with us today, and I think his 90th birthday is in March.
Wow.
So
Amazing. So how did this all get started? I mean, I remember you did say that it was enveloped within another nonprofit, but how did How come to be?
How came to be by a social life, Jackie Liggett. So she was diagnosed in the year 2000. She had this kind of annoying little symptom like ache in her side, somewhere on her side, and it was like she was exercising. It was kind of like this little muscle ache that just wouldn't go away. So she went to the doctor, and they're like, well, you probably just pulled a muscle. I'm sure it'll go away. And a couple months later, it just wouldn't go away, and they kept pushing it aside, and next thing you know, it kind of like moved down to her abdomen, and by the time she went to another doctor, they opened her up, and sure enough, that's when they discovered it was ovarian cancer. And it was too late. So she sought treatment, and she had a hysterectomy and so forth, and she ended up founding how, and the reason she did that is because she realized that there wasn't any resources out there to help women with ovarian cancer, because it was really unheard of. Only postmenopausal women were getting ovarian cancer, and it was just like very few. So she couldn't get anybody to help her. She couldn't get really doctors to give her great advice on what to do. She didn't know where to go locally.
This has to be so devastating and just confusing.
It was. So she fought a really good battle. I think she ended up getting treatment out of the state. I think she ended up going into New York. But she wanted to leave her mark, and she wanted to make sure people in Palm Beach County didn't go through what she went through. So she founded HOW through the umbrella of Palm Healthcare Foundation. So then she had her good friends around her, and was able to develop resources, and she started this wonderful luncheon, and was able to do this Jackie Liggett Fund, which is where I was talking about how she was helping these women that couldn't pay their bills, that were going through ovarian cancer and so forth. So it was pretty amazing. And so her girlfriend, she ended up dying in 2007, I think I mentioned, and her girlfriends just carried on her mission, and it grew and grew and grew, and here we are today, 2016, and we're doing really well, and we're helping a lot of women.
Wow. So when in the title of the organization is the word whisper, and that made me think, and I think you mentioned that the symptoms just aren't very obvious. What should women look out for, and how should they tune into their bodies to hopefully catch it early as possible?
Well, I mean, some of the symptoms are, bloating, painful urination, irregular bowel movements. Those are the three most common. Just unusual pain, in the abdomen area. But anybody can have those things and not have ovarian cancer, obviously.
Yeah.
So that's why it's really hard to say, but anything that persists. So let's just say that I would have bloating, and I'm saying, okay, bloating for 6 months, and I'm not pregnant. You know what I mean? So anything that lasts longer than usual. The young woman that was 22 that I was talking to you about, she had a pain in her ovary that lasted over 3 months. That's something that she knew that wasn't right. And so she went back to her doctor and said, there's something not right here. And so she was persistent about it. And they finally said, let's do an ultrasound again. And that's when they were able to find out that something was wrong.
Wow.
So you just have to really pay attention. I mean, ovarian cancer is still going to happen mostly to women postmenopausal, but you still have those weird cases, and it's happening more than often. I mean, cancer is everywhere.
Right.
So you just really have to listen and pay attention. Pay attention to that whisper. It's knocking. You know?
Yeah. That makes sense. So, why are you so passionate about this? How did you become personally involved in the organization?
So my sister is a breast cancer survivor, and my mom is a 2-time survivor of ovarian cancer.
Wow.
And I'm BRCA positive.
Okay. Which, for my listeners, if you wouldn't mind explaining what that means.
So what that means is when my sister was diagnosed with breast cancer when she was 32. So that's a trigger for genetics because she was so young. So there's a family history with breast cancer on my dad's side. So because she was young, they did a genetic testing on my dad's side of the family. So she was tested, she was positive, so then they tested my brothers and myself. So I'm positive, and my younger brother is, and my older brother is not. So what that means is the BRCA gene, so she's a carrier of the gene, which means that I can't even talk.
You're right.
It would develop breast cancer by the time she was 40, a high risk, a 50% chance. That means I had high risk of developing breast cancer as well, and then colon cancer for my brother.
Wow.
And then by the time I was 40, the risk of ovarian cancer would have been 40% and so forth. So there's a genetic mutation because my grandmother died of breast cancer when she was 38. So that's where the gene passed down to.
Oh my gosh.
So it came from my dad's side. And back 20 years ago, you didn't know it came from the father's side. You just thought it came from the mom's side.
Right.
So my sister was a guinea pig, is how I like to say it. She saved us all.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
At least it had a really good outcome. At least you guys are aware, and I think that sounds like that's the key because, again, I don't have the personal experience with cancer, but from everything I understand, catching it early is absolutely key. So
knowledge is power.
Exactly. So listening to that whisper and really paying attention to your body and
if you have
being
a
your own advocate.
if you have a family history of any type of cancer, it's really good to know what you're faced with. Know your history, especially if it's breast, ovarian, and if anybody on your, especially with women, if your mom, your aunts, your sisters, your great aunts, wherever, if they ever got breast or ovarian cancer when they were young, there's usually going to be a genetic path there. and if you're going to have children, that's where it all comes to play. Like, I have a daughter. I have the gene, so my daughter will be tested. Pray to God I haven't passed it down to her, but if I did, at least I know what to do now.
Right.
You know, I've had a prophylactic double mastectomy, so the chances of me getting sick through breast cancer is less than 1%. You have a higher chance of getting breast cancer genetically than I do, just because I removed all my breast tissue that could get sick.
Right.
And I've had my ovaries removed, but I've had 2 kids, you know, so I waited till I could, you know, I still live a healthy life. I'm married. I had 2 kids. I look normal. I'm great. You know, I have perky boobs. Everything's great. You know, everything's perfect.
Your bras are still happy, so
yeah. I mean, it's a walk in the park. The surgeries were great.
Can I ask you, because I can only, you know, when I hear stories of women who've gone through that, you know, of course there's the fear factor that would be a part of any kind of major surgery like that. But then there's also such an emotional factor. You know, you hear women who feel like without their breasts, they feel less like they're less of a woman, or you know, if they can no longer bear children, even if they had zero intention of ever wanting any or any more, there's still the feeling of feeling less than a woman. What was that like for you? Did you go through that?
I didn't go through that at all.
Yeah, good.
I mean, because I had children, I definitely had the fear going into it. When I found out I had the gene, I already had, my son was 2. So I already breastfed him, so I already was married. I think it's harder when people find out they have the gene and they're just starting out in life and they haven't met, you know, they're not married, and they're like, what do I do now? So they must carry all that anxiety with them.
Right.
So I didn't have any of that. So I have the choice. Let's just say when I get my daughter tested and I have that information, when will I tell her? That's going to create anxiety for me.
Right.
So I think, you know, it really just depends on how you handle it. I lived such a normal life after it. It really didn't affect me because I still have breasts. They look better than they did before. I mean, they're perfect. I have no scarring. I have my nipples. I mean, they're just perfect. I ended up having 2 kids, and then I removed my ovaries. The only thing that sucked for me was the finality of it. So it forced me not to have any more kids. But I was already done with having kids anyway.